Welcome to this lecture on adult tissue stem cells. Imagine if your body had a built-in maintenance crew that never slept, constantly repairing damage and replacing old parts. Today, we are going to explore exactly how our bodies achieve this incredible feat. We will uncover the hidden biological factories that keep our organs functioning day after day, year after year, and learn the mathematics behind our very survival. To start, let us imagine you own a massive factory that builds cars. In this factory, the tools used to build the cars wear out every single day. To keep the factory running, you need a special machine whose only job is to build new tools to replace the broken ones. In your body, adult tissue stem cells act exactly like this special machine. They are the hidden, long-lasting reserves sitting quietly in your organs, waiting to replace cells that die from old age or injury. Without these incredible biological reserves, your skin would wear away, your blood would run out of oxygen-carrying cells, and your organs would simply fail. Now that we understand their purpose through our factory analogy, let us look at their formal biological definition. An adult tissue stem cell is a rare, undifferentiated cell residing within a specific, fully developed tissue. It is important to distinguish these from embryonic stem cells, which can become literally any cell in the body. Adult stem cells are typically multipotent. This means they are specialized to a degree. They can only create the specific cell types of the tissue they live in. For example, a blood stem cell can make red or white blood cells, but it cannot suddenly decide to become a brain cell. Knowing what these cells are brings us to their most defining characteristic: how they multiply. The defining feature of a stem cell is its ability to perform asymmetric division. When a normal cell divides, it usually makes two identical copies. But when a stem cell divides, it produces two completely different daughter cells. One daughter cell remains a stem cell, staying behind to maintain the reserve pool. The other daughter cell becomes what we call a transit amplifying cell. This dual ability is known as self-renewal and differentiation. It is the elegant mechanism that ensures the tissue can maintain its structure and function throughout an organism's entire lifespan without ever running out of stem cells. Before we move on, let us see this asymmetric division with a concrete visual example. On the screen, you can see a schematic representing this elegant biological process. Starting on the left, we have our original stem cell. Notice how the division arrow splits into two distinct paths. The top path shows self-renewal, where one cell remains exactly like the original, preserving our biological factory. The bottom path shows the creation of the transit amplifying cell. You can see how this single transit amplifying cell then leads to a large group of mature functional cells. This diagram perfectly captures how a tissue sustains itself, balancing preservation with the massive generation of new specialized cells. This visual understanding of division leads us directly to why this process is so critical for our survival. The importance of adult tissue stem cells cannot be overstated. They are the absolute foundation of tissue homeostasis and repair. Think about the sheer scale of cellular turnover in your body. Every single day, you lose millions of skin cells just by existing. Inside your blood vessels, your red blood cells only live for about 120 days before they are destroyed and recycled. If your body did not have this stem cell mechanism to constantly replace these lost cells, your tissues would rapidly degrade, leading to organ failure and ultimately death. Beyond daily maintenance, these cells are also our first responders in times of crisis. Furthermore, these cells are crucial for wound healing. When you get a cut or a burn, local stem cells are immediately activated. They shift from their quiet, resting state to rapidly divide and rebuild the damaged tissue. Understanding and harnessing the power of these cells is also the entire basis of modern regenerative medicine. A perfect example of this is a bone marrow transplant, which uses hematopoietic stem cells to cure blood cancers like leukemia. By giving a patient healthy stem cells, we are essentially giving them a brand new factory to produce healthy blood. Now that we appreciate their medical importance, we must ask, how does such a tiny number of stem cells maintain such massive tissues? To understand this, we look at the mathematics of cell amplification. When a stem cell divides, the resulting transit amplifying cell does not just mature immediately. Instead, it undergoes several rounds of rapid division before fully differentiating. This intermediate step is absolutely crucial. It prevents the original stem cell from having to divide constantly. If stem cells divided too often, they would accumulate DNA damage over time, which could lead to cancer or tissue failure. Instead, they delegate the heavy lifting of multiplication to their daughters. This concept of delegated multiplication brings us to the mathematical model that describes it. Here is the tissue renewal formula. Conceptually, this formula calculates the total output of mature cells based on the starting pool of stem cells and how many times their daughters multiply. Let us break down the symbols. M represents the rate of mature cell production, measured in cells per day. S stands for the number of active stem cells dividing at any given time. The variable N represents the number of division cycles the transit amplifying cells undergo before they mature. Finally, T represents the time it takes for one complete stem cell division cycle, measured in days. Notice that the number 2 is raised to the power of N. This means if the number of amplification divisions, N, increases, the production of mature cells, M, increases exponentially. This exponential growth is what allows a tiny stem cell pool to generate millions of functional cells. Now that we have our formula, let us apply it to a real biological scenario. Let us imagine a small section of bone marrow that contains 500 active stem cells. Their daughter cells undergo 4 rounds of transit amplifying divisions, and the stem cell division cycle takes 2 days. We want to find out exactly how many mature red blood cells are produced per day. We start by plugging our known values into the formula. We substitute S with 500, N with 4, and T with 2. Following the order of operations, we calculate the exponent first. 2 to the power of 4 is 16. This 16 is our biological multiplier. Multiplying 500 by 16 gives us a total batch of 8,000 cells produced every 2 days. Finally, dividing by 2 gives us our daily rate. The final answer is 4,000 mature red blood cells per day. This perfectly demonstrates how a mere 500 stem cells can sustain a much larger population efficiently. Having seen a standard calculation, let us look at a reverse calculation used during medical emergencies. Suppose a patient has suffered a severe skin burn. The tissue needs to produce 32,000 new skin cells per day to heal, but only 1,000 active stem cells survived the injury. The cycle takes 1 day. We need to find N, the number of transit amplifying divisions required to meet this massive demand. We plug our known values into the equation. Since the time T is 1 day, the denominator simplifies away, leaving 32,000 equals 1,000 times 2 to the power of N. To isolate the exponential term, we divide both sides by the 1,000 surviving stem cells. This leaves us with 32
equals 2 to the power of n. We know that 2 multiplied by itself 5 times equals 32. Therefore, the final answer is n equals 5. Physically, this means the body must signal the intermediate cells to divide 1 extra time compared to normal, proving our stem cell systems can dynamically adapt to trauma.
This mathematical result from our burn patient example is beautifully illustrated in this graph. What you are looking at is the exponential power of transit amplifying cells. The horizontal axis represents the number of division cycles, n. The vertical axis shows the resulting number of mature cells produced from just a single stem cell. Notice the shape of the curve. It is not a straight line. It sweeps upward exponentially. As we move from 1 division to 2, 4, and then 5, the output explodes. The highlighted point at n equals 5 shows our emergency repair state, where a single stem cell ultimately yields 32 mature cells. This diagram visually reinforces why the transit amplifying phase is the secret weapon of tissue repair, allowing a tiny surviving stem cell pool to rapidly cover a massive wound. We have covered a lot of ground today, so let us summarize the key takeaways. First, adult tissue stem cells are the vital, self-renewing architects of our body's daily maintenance and repair. Second, they achieve this through asymmetric division, perfectly balancing the need to preserve their own population while generating new cells. Third, we learned that transit amplifying daughters do the heavy lifting of multiplication, protecting the original stem cells from exhaustion. Finally, by understanding the mathematics of tissue renewal, we can explain both how we survive everyday wear and tear and the biological foundations of modern regenerative medicine. You now have a solid grasp of both the biology and the mathematics behind tissue renewal. Great job today.